Happy Monday! It's time for another suggestion about how to reduce stress. And we talked quite a bit about why uncertainty is unique in terms of how it constantly triggers that cortisol reaction, making it go up, doing all those things in our body which aren't very healthy for us, at least on an extended period. And it's the thing that kind of makes it hard to fall asleep at night. It's just constantly there, sort of worrying at you. One of the reasons uncertainty and the stress caused by uncertainty is like that is that our brains like predictability. They are most comfortable when our brains know it's coming, has a pathway, knows how to react. That's very comfortable. We are uncomfortable, or our brains are uncomfortable, when something comes out of left field and we don't know what to do with it. That's uncertainty, right? We don't exactly not know what to do in this situation. And that is why uncertainty is something that we have to deal kind of head on. And all of the things that I'm going to talk about today are in the Combating Uncertainty section of the book. So that's where you find it. And I find this whole reaction to unpredictable situations really interesting. One of the studies that I talk about in the book is one where I always think it's really interesting when college students are involved in. Clearly they get paid to do these studies, but I really wonder if they know what they're getting into when they go into it. So what happened is they brought people in, they hooked them up to electrodes that would give them a electric shock, not a big one, but minorly painful electric shock if when they picked up a rock, there was a snake underneath the rock, a rubber snake, not a real snake. So you're there, you pick up the rock. If there's a snake there, you get a shock. If there's not a snake there, you don't get a shock. What they figured out in the whole point of the test was, if they said to you, when you pick up that rock, there will definitely not be a snake there. Like, there's no stress in picking up that rock. You don't have any worries about it because predictably there is not a snake under the rock. And if they tell you 100% when you pick up that rock, there is going to be a snake underneath there, and you pick it up, you know that you're going to get a shock. That is actually less stressful than not knowing either way. The idea that you could pick up the rock, you see the snake, you know you're going to get a shock is predictable. You can prepare yourself. You can be ready for that shock, and it's not as stressful, which is really interesting. And in real life, most of us aren't picking up a rock and seeing if there's a snake underneath there. But in real life, if you thought about it, if it is like, 4:45 on a Friday and your boss calls you into the office, one of three things is true. You know you're a fabulous employee and you're definitely not getting fired. You know that you have not been living up to expectations and maybe you're getting fired. That could be happening today. Or you don't have any idea why you're being called in the boss's office. Two of those are less stressful than the one not knowing. What is really interesting is that we can train our brains to look at unpredictable circumstances or happenings as predictable. We can train ourselves to create a sense of security even though we're dealing with a lot of uncertainty. And as I developed this in the book, I worked with a safety expert, Lisa Hain, really looking through sort of a flow of how you would do this. And I'm going to imagine this looks relatively familiar to things that you do in your organization to prepare for unpredictable circumstances. And really, it's just a flow of thinking about what's causing the uncertainty, what are the things you can control, and what are the things that you can't. We spend a remarkable amount of time worrying and stressing about things we cannot control, that we have no influence on whatsoever. We spend all our time thinking about that, and we don't think about the things that we actually can control. When we focus on the things that we can control, that is when we start training ourselves to see the situation as more predictable. I go through the process in the book talking about what are the things that you need to have, and you need to practice in order to train yourself to see this as something that is more predictable. There's a whole system to go through to figure it out, but the short of it is, if you can find something in a situation that you can control. Maybe we're going into the holiday season and we're not sure how this holiday season is going to look because we have some variants and we have family members that maybe have different views about vaccines and that sort of thing. There are lots of things in that situation we can't control. We can't control how much virus is in our community. We can't control other people in our family. What we can control is our behavior, how we set up the holiday, and how we choose to think about it. So what are the things that we need to know? What do we need to have in place? And what do we need to practice before we get there? So an uncertain, unpredictable situation feels more predictable. That's my thought for this week. Think about what are the things in your world right now that are feeling uncertain. What can you control in that situation? What can't you control in that situation? What are the steps that you can take to make that feel more predictable and reduce the stress caused by it? That's my tip for today. I will be back next Monday with another one. Until then, I wish you low stress and great success.